Hey everyone, and welcome to This Explainer. I am absolutely thrilled you're tuning in today because we are tackling a massive topic that literally has the power to completely reshape your future. If you're a real estate agent, you know exactly what I mean when I talk about the transaction hamster wheel. I mean, it's exhausting, right? You close a big deal, you celebrate for maybe 5 minutes, and then boom, the counter resets to zero. Well, today we're breaking down a really structured, incredibly powerful document called the 20-Year Wealth Plan Guide for Real Estate Agents. The whole point of this explainer is to help you finally escape that endless cycle and build meaningful, lasting freedom over the next 2 decades. Okay, so let's take a quick look at the roadmap. Today's agenda takes us through a structured 5-part funnel, starting with your life, calculating your freedom numbers, building your wealth buckets, reverse engineering your business, and then finally locking in your 12-month action plan.
All right, kicking things off with part 1, start with your life. This is where we define the exact life your financial plan is actually supposed to support.
You know, it is so incredibly tempting to just jump straight into the spreadsheets. But before any math is done, you really have to define the actual life you want to lead. The guide presents these absolute foundational questions. Where do I want to live? What should a normal weekday actually feel like? Who do I want more time with? By answering these specific questions, you ground your wealth plan in emotional reality, rather than just chasing some random, impressive-sounding dollar amount. You are literally defining the purpose of the money before you go out there and earn it.
So I want to pause for a second and ask you directly. What part of your current life are you trying to protect or improve? Really think about this for a moment. What does freedom actually look like in your calendar, not just in your bank account? If you achieve your ultimate financial goal, what genuinely changes about your average Tuesday morning? Keep that vivid picture in your mind as we move forward.
Moving right along to part 2, calculate your freedom numbers. This is where we start tying those big dollar amounts to real choices and pressure relief. Now we transition from that emotional vision we just talked about into the precise numbers required to actually fund it. Enter the 20-year freedom number. This is your target net worth. The guide explains that this total number, and we're talking about everything here, passive income, real estate equity, retirement accounts, cash reserves, is the exact point where working becomes a choice rather than a mandatory requirement for your survival. It's the ultimate game changer. But again, the guide forces us to pause with another really important meaning check. Are you building a lifestyle that you genuinely want, or are you building a lifestyle that only looks successful to everybody else on social media? You have to define what is enough. Because honestly, if you never define what enough is, you are going to be running on that hamster wheel forever.
Which brings us perfectly to part 3, build your wealth buckets. In other words, giving every single dollar a highly specific job. Keeping your wealth goals vague is super dangerous. As an agent, you must give every single dollar a specific job. To protect your future self, your funds absolutely must be strategically compartmentalized across 5 critical areas. You've got retirement and market investments to grow your capital, real estate investments for that sweet cash flow, cash reserves to build a bulletproof safety net, debt freedom to eliminate what you owe, and finally, family, giving, and legacy. Doing this guarantees your wealth is actively working for you across all fronts simultaneously.
Now, ask yourself, which of these goals creates legacy, not just lifestyle? This is a crucial check because it reminds us that true wealth connects to people, priorities, and responsibilities that outlive a single real estate career. It's really about asking who actually benefits if you follow through on this grand plan.
Okay, part 4, reverse engineer your business. We are connecting that massive 20-year plan directly to your required daily production.
Up until now, we've really just talked about the destination. But your real estate business? That's simply the engine meant to fund it. And now, we have to mathematically reverse engineer that engine. Look at the left side of this breakdown. You have these intimidating top-level goals, like a massive annual income target. But on the right, you translate those into granular actions. Suddenly, a huge income goal just becomes a very specific number of real estate conversations you need to have this week. It completely removes the emotion and replaces it with pure execution.
But as you calculate these necessary weekly activities, you have to ask yourself, does your current business model actually create freedom, or does it just create a mountain of new obligations? Are you building a business around your core strengths, or around sheer panic? Think about it. If hitting your necessary numbers means working yourself into the ground 80 hours a week, well, you don't have a wealth plan. You have a burnout plan. You absolutely must consider what parts of your business need to be systemized or delegated right now.
And to keep you on track, the guide insists on strict checkpoints. A 20-year plan is pretty much useless without milestones. You need to map out your 1-year, 3-year, 5-year, and 10-year targets. Why? To measure whether you are effectively building wealth or if you are just drifting aimlessly from one transaction to the next.
When you set those milestones, you are naturally going to see a divide. As you compare your current reality, your net worth, gross commission, your debt, against your ultimate 20-year goals, a massive gap is going to appear. But the guide is super explicit about this. Identifying this gap is absolutely not meant to make you feel behind. Instead, it serves as an objective, literal roadmap for exactly what needs to change starting today.
And that leads us to our final step, Part 5, your 12-month action plan, because a bigger future definitely requires different habits today.
A 20-year dream is completely useless if it doesn't change what you do this very year. So, what do you do right now? First, identify the specific habits you need to build, and, just as importantly, the ones you need to stop. Second, lock in your primary financial goal for the next 12 months. And third, relentlessly track your weekly transactions and conversations. Improving your lead generation right now is literally the only way to bridge that massive gap to your 20-year target.
Now, to guarantee you actually stick to this, you must establish what the guide calls financial non-negotiables. These are rigid, unbreakable rules designed to protect your plan when the real estate business inevitably gets super emotional or inconsistent. You have to decide in advance exactly what percentage of every single check goes straight to taxes, what percentage is invested, how many months of business reserves are you going to maintain, and what is your rigid rule for what happens when you get a massive, totally unexpected commission check.
Here is a piercing question straight from the guide. What rule would protect you from your own worst financial habit? Think about it. Where do you need discipline more than motivation? By automating these decisions right now, you ensure that your future self will be thanking you instead of bailing you out.
Once you have built this entire roadmap, it's time to make it real. Finishing the plan means writing a physical commitment statement. It goes like this: I am building wealth because the freedom I am creating looks like. The first action I will take is putting the required sacrifices and immediate next actions into your own concrete words and actually signing your name to it shifts the whole thing from just a nice idea into a binding personal contract.
I want to wrap up with this incredibly powerful final reminder straight from the source text. Read this with me. The goal is not just to sell more homes. Give every dollar a job and make the business serve the life you are building. Your income should never, ever just disappear into your lifestyle without direction. So I'll leave you with this provocative thought to chew on. Are you currently running a real estate business, or is your real estate business running you? It's time to choose. Thanks so much for joining me on this explainer, and I'll catch you on the next one.